My groceries arrived on one of the days that I was filming this video. With the frozen bread came a huge hunk of dry ice. Being the simple person that I am, I used it. So you're going to see a lot of dry ice and ink for this video about Pilot's blue-black ink. Pilot's blue-black ink is kind of like their basic ink. It comes in small 30 milliliter bottles, 70 milliliter round bottles, and giant 350 milliliter, like a Coke bottle size. I got this one at the Mauthausen Pen Fair because it came in this kind of retro bottle. Apparently this is a limited edition and it's the same ink that's in their other bottles. It's a water resistant ink, but surprisingly it's not a pigment ink nor an iron gall ink. The ink reacts with the cellulose in the paper, which makes it water resistant. Bruno Tot of Chronicus Stylographicus has a great post explaining this, along with pictures of the different size bottles. I'll put the link in the description box below. So let's take a look at the ink. This particular bottle comes in this kind of retro looking box. It's pretty small. Between seeing the ink in the 70 milliliter bottles and the 351, this just looks tiny. It has a blue plastic cap and kind of a trapezoidal shape. The side of the bottle says Pilot Made in Japan. And I got this ink strictly for the bottle, as this ink is available all over the place in Japan. I do my reviews on Tomoe River and Graphilo paper, and the fine line on both of them was a nice soft blue color. The pen I used was a Preppy .3. The medium line was a medium nib from a platinum Curados, and it came out really dark, but the Curados lays down a lot of ink. And the 1.1 line was with a TWSBI 580, and it showed a lot of really cool shading. And the flex writing had a nice smooth flow. And the Pilot Parallel 6.0 of course had a lot of really great shading that also showed up in the 1.1. I did some general writing with the 1.1, and you can tell I wrote too small for that size nib, as a lot of the letters were filled in with ink. The writing had just a real little bit of red sheen halo around the letters. On the dry test, I just do 5 loops to simulate writing a word, and then count the appropriate seconds, and then try to smear it. And this shows it's about 10 seconds or so for both of them to be completely dry. Let's take a quick break from the review so I can play with some more dry ice and talk about a few things. First off, Apple Boom has included me in their series about your favorite 3 fountain pens. I'll leave the link to the video that's supposed to air on Monday in the description box below. You may want to head on over there and see me mess up filming myself. I'm never really in the center of the frame. I'd like to thank everyone that participated in the poll that I put out last week asking what kinds of videos you'd like to watch from me. I've decided on YouTube I'm not going to do just single ink reviews anymore, and that was reflected in the poll. Only 9% of the respondents said that they wanted single ink reviews. So on YouTube, I think I'll do like multiple ink reviews in one video. For instance, I was asked to do a review on Tono and Lim's inks, and I'll just maybe do a couple of bottles of interesting inks in one video. But as far as single ink reviews, I think I'll just do them on my Instagram on IGTV and keep them down to maybe 2 or 3 minutes, something quick and simple. The overwhelming majority wanted me to do pen and ink reviews interspersed with scenes of Tokyo and Japan. So that's what I'll try to work on in the future, Thanks so much for all the feedback, and doesn't this reverse ink look pretty cool? And now back to the review. The ink splots kind of got messed up, but as you can see, it has a really strong red sheen. That begs the question, if you dump enough ink on Tomoa River, will all inks sheen? I don't think I've ever seen any ink that hasn't sheened on Tomoa River. Besides the sheen, there was some interesting little spots of like pink and lighter blue that looked like it might have been one of the more modern inks like Haha. And that soft color was reflected in the fine line with a nice soft dusty blue color. The chromatography was the real surprise. Here you can see the line where that's the water resistant part, but then it's separated out into a bunch of different colors. There's pink and then some gray, some green, and then light blue and a little bit of yellow. Again, it looks like it might be the chromatography off of something like Sailor Haha ink. Next is our waterproof test. I'll take a glass and then spread some water on the bottom so it'll act as if it's like condensation on the glass, and then set it on the paper for like 5 minutes. While we're waiting on that, I'll simulate like spilling some coffee on your work and seeing how that affects it. Yeah, as I was cleaning up, I was wondering whatever possessed me to try this. Okay, our 5 minutes are up, and as you can see, the water kind of left a ring where it lifted up the top color, but you can still read what was underneath it. And the coffee just left a light brown stain, and since we cleaned it up right away, you can read everything just fine. Pilot Blue Black ink is a pretty light blue black ink that has a nice smooth flow and is fairly wet. It's water resistant and fairly inexpensive. There's a reason why this ink is considered a classic. So my verdict is pretty much a thumbs up on this ink. Stay safe and healthy, and most of all, stay optimistic. I'll see you next week.